Second video of the day. First segment, we talked about Geeks and Gamers and The Last of Us Part 2, the whole copyright shenanigans going on there. Very serious topic. This one is going to be a little bit more memey, a little bit more lighthearted, and hopefully will bring you a chuckle. The massive irony of starting your terrible take off by saying, wow, I've seen some terrible takes. But this one is up there too. I hope you're talking about your own post. Before we get to laugh at that, we have to get the rest of the context though. So the first tweet here is this one that says, even if Miles is kicked off of at least RWBY, I don't trust literally any of the writers to make RWBY good. Just give the right to a Japanese animation studio for the love of God. And this other person chimes in and says, I agree on this 100%. If RWBY starts to decline even further, then they'll lose the rights to it. But if they sell to a well-known Japanese animation studio, then they'll show RT how it's done, since they're natural when it comes to world building, storytelling, and characters. Now, while I agree that Rooster Teeth hasn't done a great job of utilizing the RWBY IP for any number of reasons that I'm not going to get into in this video because we'll be here all day if we do, I don't think it's likely at all that a Japanese studio picks up RWBY. The direction that it looks like it's going, as we've said time and time again, is that if anything, maybe HBO ends up picking up RWBY as RT continues to fall. And, well, fall is putting it lightly. As they continue to nosedive into not just the ground. You know those, like, pit holes with the spikes on the bottom of it? That's what RT is nosediving to. The pit hole with the spikes. And as you can see, that's what set this Crim person off. They got all triggered by that and said, wow, I've seen some terrible takes, but this one is up there too. RWBY is far better than anime/manga in many ways. Treatment of female characters, having LGBT plus characters, not doing fan service, etc. Also, screw this idea that Japan inherently makes good anime. In recent years, they've... Now, before we continue, why don't we talk about this one? So their reasoning to claim that RWBY is far better than anime/manga is how they treat female characters. Now, this is a very bizarre take because it's not exactly a rare thing, and I'm putting it very lightly, it's extremely common, where anime have very powerful, awesome, just kick-ass female characters. That's very common. On top of there being strong, awesome female characters in pretty much every genre, they even have the entire magical girl genre, which is pretty much chock full of OP female characters. I can only really think of two reasons why someone would say that anime and manga treats female characters poorly. Either, number one, they are just ignorant and making a statement that they can't back up, or number two, they are just trying to misconstrue the truth because they have an agenda. Don't know what's going on here. Might be either thing. Maybe a little combination of both. Now, let's talk about representation in anime briefly. You see, I already made a video talking about that topic with over 120,000 views. Most people agreeing, by far, not even close, most people agreeing that anime does indeed have good representation. So again, I think this is either misconstruing the truth for an agenda, that agenda being you just want to prop up RT and RWBY because you're a fanatic, and that's pretty pathetic that you will prop up a company that's not actually partaking properly in the representation that you're acting like you care about simply because you're biased towards that company. I honestly don't know how anyone can sit there and say that the representation in RWBY is even good. I mean, there's no male rep, first of all. You have Scarlet. Who's Scarlet, though? He hasn't been in the show in like 4 volumes. You have Jean's sister and her girlfriend, who is a side character. Well, they're both side characters that had maybe 5 minutes of screen time. You have May, who is also a side character that had maybe 2 minutes of screen time. And then you have Blake and Yang, who, upon developing a relationship together, have had their characters become weaker and dependent on each other, which doesn't seem very healthy. But this is all what some fanatics will claim as great representation. Again, how they can sincerely say that, I have no idea. Oh, by the way, Bumblebee shippers out there, if you want to see a Yuri relationship actually done well, check out the anime Ga-Rei Zero. That's a great anime, and the relationships of the two female characters in that anime is way better than Blake and Yang, in my opinion. Not even close. Somehow, this person made not just one tweet of a terrible hot take, but also a second tweet, a third tweet, a fourth tweet, a fifth tweet, a sixth, and a seventh tweet. They made 7 tweets, all trying to claim that anime and manga treats female characters poorly and has bad representation. Oh my gosh. They end their rant off by saying that It doesn't matter since RWBY Volume 8 and 9 have been greenlit. Well, you know what doesn't matter? Claiming that Volume 8 and 9 have been greenlit, which, by the way, I covered on my channel. People like to claim I only cover bad news with RWBY. That's not true. It's just that most of the news is bad nowadays. I'm sorry, I don't make the press. I just report on what's going on. So they say Volume 8 and 9 have been greenlit, and I'm saying that that doesn't really mean anything. Any company can say that they have plans for the future. It doesn't mean that actually gets done. They also go on to say that RWBY is doing well because it trended on Twitter multiple times, which is an absurd argument. Plenty of terrible things also trend on Twitter all the time. They claim it's referenced in a movie that's done by Warner Media. Yeah, I wonder how that could have happened. Distributed by Warner Media, which is an American multinational mass media conglomerate owned by AT&T, who also happens to own Rooster Teeth. Wow, I guess that movie thing doesn't look so impressive now, does it? This is just downright hilarious. The person who made these arguments, are they really this ignorant? That's the main question here at this point. The question is the person who made these hot takes that ignorant, or are they desperately trying this hard to misconstrue the truth? I don't know. This is just hilarious. Has multiple side material and getting more going forward. Where they refer to 3 new shows, I think they're talking about this announcement that Rooster Teeth made, which was probably one of the most underwhelming announcements that they could have done. They said 3 new RWBY shows. Most people are thinking, you know, what people generally want, which is a Team Stark spinoff or a Neo backstory, or more World of Remnant, whatever happened to that, or RWBY Chibi. What do we actually get? A behind-the-scenes talk show hosted by Carrie. Okay, that's something no one really asked for. A first exclusive live-action series that sees members of Rooster Teeth and some special guests play through a RWBY-inspired set of Dungeons and Dragons. Again, something nobody asked for. And then finally, this is the only one that actually sounds kind of cool to me, early stages of development on a handful of new animated shorts featuring original RWBY fairy tales. So very underwhelming, and to say that these are 3 new RWBY shows is kind of a stretch. You know, this is not exactly what people want. And this person's final point is that RWBY is owned by RT directly. I'm not sure how that means RWBY is doing well. As a matter of fact, I will take your point and I'll flip it on you. I'm going to say that RWBY being owned by RT directly means that RWBY is in trouble. RT looks like a failing company. I would rather see RWBY owned by a company that looks, you know, like they're successful and not failing. On top of that, we could get into a whole nitty-gritty argument about RT having RWBY as an asset, but RT not exactly having a full stake in their own equity, but we're not going to get into that because, again, I think that point is more of a knock against RWBY than a point for RWBY. So kind of funny to flip that on them. That's just my take, though. If you enjoyed this video, if you like my take, please consider hitting the thumbs up button. That will help the video do well, and consider leaving your thoughts in the comments below, subscribing if you're not, turning the notification bell, all that jazz, and maybe even sharing the video. That would also be much appreciated. With that said, concluding this video, I'd like to give a special thanks to the kind people who promoted the earlier video over on Twitter, that one about Geeks and Gamers. Shouts out to, first of all, Geeks and Gamers and Jeremy. Thank you for keeping us all informed on the situation, and Jeremy, thank you for sharing my video, much appreciated. Also, shouts out to Baku Girl, Mr. Anime 343, The Ice Cream is Just an Illusion, Coden, Midoriya, X on the Brain, and the Cyber Demon. Thank you all once again, and I'll see you next time.